Some secrets lie buried in the cold. Kira trudged through the village under the suffocating weight of despair. Every day was a battle against her surroundings. The cold nipped at her skin, biting deeper than any harsh word. She was 22, an omega in a world where her existence was worth less than the stones lining the cold streets. The villagers moved around her, their indifferent gazes a constant reminder that she was nothing, a ghost drifting through the air. Chained to a life of servitude, Kira had learned to embrace the shadows. She trudged from door to door, collecting remnants of meals not consumed, desperate to fill her hollow stomach. The sharp winter wind howled, carrying with it the scent of frost and despair. Each breath turned to vapor, a cloud of her fleeting hopes. Her clothes were thin, patched, barely hanging on her fragile frame. Kira wrapped herself tighter, though the tattered fabric offered little protection. Wild brown hair hung in disarray, strands escaping from her futile attempts to tame it. Haunted green eyes reflected years of suffering, years of being overlooked and ignored. She felt invisible, and with that, she carried a weight that no one could see. The village felt colder these days, the frost creeping into bones, wrapping itself around hearts. Provisions were scarce, disappearing with every whisper of winter's breath. Kira scavenged through the remains of abandoned huts, clinging to whatever scraps she could find. What would she have tonight? Just some bread? Maybe a watery soup? It wasn't enough, but it was all she could hope for. A shiver ran through her, deeper than the chill of the air. She grasped at the flickering flames of hope, but they danced just out of reach. Every hopeful thought was snuffed out by a reminder that she was alone, that there was no one to turn to, no one who cared. Each passing day felt like a cruel continuation of her silent torment. Suddenly, she felt the weight of a gaze upon her, a piercing presence that sent shivers down her spine. King Gareth approached. He loomed large, a figure legends were spun from. 400 years old, and the scars of his past marred his face. He was a Lycan king, respected and feared. Striking features turned into a mask of solemnity. The ruler of a divided realm, he carried the burden of a lineage cursed by loss. Kira had heard whispers of him, stories of a king whose heart had grown distant, surrounded by loyalty but starved for warmth. He walked with a commanding presence, yet Kira could see the weariness in his eyes. Loneliness twisted within him, a dark thread woven through the fabric of his rule. As he moved through the village, Kira felt an odd instinct, a magnetic pull she couldn't quite understand. But he was no king in her eyes, just a man burdened with shadows. She turned away, trying to shake the feeling loose. The air grew thick with tension, like the calm before a storm. Gareth, though an imposing figure, sensed the unrest brewing around him, hunger, desperation. He had grown accustomed to fear, to keeping the people at a distance. Yet beneath that veneer of strength lay uncertainty, and then, in an instant, fate thrust them together. While gathering firewood, Kira stumbled across something unexpected. A small child, lost. Shivering and fragile, she was hidden beneath a blanket of snow. Kira's heart raced. As she knelt down, brushing the snow away, she felt an unspoken bond, a connection that tugged at the strings of her heart. Could this lost girl, this spark of warmth amidst her dark existence, be the change she so desperately longed for? Next, we'll move into Block 2, where we will explore Kira and Gareth's backstories and the world they inhabit, providing deeper context for their struggles and connection. Let's continue. Kira knelt beside the child, brushing away the last bits of snow. She didn't know how long she'd been in a daze, but now the reality of the girl before her grounded her in a way she hadn't felt in years. Lila, as the girl introduced herself, was small, her eyes wide and shimmering like the dawn breaking through a stormy night. Kira's heart swelled. Could someone so innocent, so full of flickering light, see her? But memories crashed into her like waves. Alone, always alone. She had been orphaned at a young age, the flames consuming her home as she stood helpless outside. She could still feel the heat, the horrific crackling of wood, the smoke rising. No family to comfort her, just the village, scornful and distant. Each attempt to reach out had resulted in ridicule. Kira had learned quickly, trusting no one. The laughter echoed in her mind, reminding her how friendship was a privilege meant for others. Years of isolation had forged her silence into steel, but Lila's presence seemed to thaw the cold within, a kindness Kira longed for but never thought she'd find. As she wrapped her arms around the girl, her instincts kicked in. "Come on, we need to get you warm." Kira led Lila back to her modest quarters, a damp space full of shadows, but a sanctuary in its own right. Inside, a fire hardly flickered. The wood was scarce. They shared a simple meal, breadcrumbs steeped in a thin broth. Kira watched as Lila ate, her small hands gripping the bowl with determination. This moment, so fleeting yet so profound, ignited a warmth within Kira, something to latch onto, even for a brief time. The kingdom crumbled under Gareth's reign, a titanic structure of fear and oppression. Divided into classes, the Lycans ruled with an iron fist. The village suffered, caught in a web of control, and Kira had only known hardship as a result. Every moment felt color stripped from her life, making each day blend into the next, duller than the last. King Gareth had never intended to be a tyrant, but lessons from a brutal mentor had left him hardened. His training had stripped away every ounce of compassion, conditioning him to rule with power alone. He had witnessed the destruction of friendships, the deaths of loved ones, all bound to the relentless wheel of duty and loss. He hated the loneliness, but in this realm where emotion was a weakness, Gareth felt he had no choice. His heart, once open, now encased in walls built from regret. It was tragic, really. He had been a child once too, laughter and joy within his grasp, only to watch that slip away. When the news of the rebellion began to bubble up, it struck fear deep in his core. He was losing control, and that terrified him more than the danger of being confronted. Tonight, he ventured into the village, fueled by a restless desire to quell the whispers of unrest. Even his presence incited fear, but Gareth pushed through the gnawing uncertainty. What he'd find there was beyond comprehension. As he walked, he could sense the villagers' apprehension. The cold didn't bite as fiercely as their resentment. As he rounded a corner, something caught his eye, a flicker of movement. Kira, standing tiny against the backdrop of the cruel winter, holding Lila's hand, drawing her close. The bond between them was palpable, an interplay of protection and trust. He sensed it from afar, a heart so full of compassion that it nearly consumed him. Was this girl different? The air thickened, electrified with emotion. Gareth's breath caught. He didn't want to feel. He didn't want to care. But there she was, a whirlwind of defiance and tenderness, challenging everything he believed. His heart raced. A foreign sensation. Kira felt it too. As Gareth approached, solid and imposing, the gravity shifted. Lila nestled against Kira, sensing the weight of the king's presence. Kira tightened her grip, feeling a protective instinct flare. "Who are you?" Gareth's voice broke through the tension, commanding, but with an undercurrent of curiosity. Kira swallowed, her heart hammered. Just a villager trying to help. And for the first time in years, something flickered inside her. Not fear, but a glimmer of possibility. Would this encounter change everything? Next, we'll delve into Block 3, revealing their collision and the recognition of deeper connections. Let's continue. Kira held her breath, the king's presence looming above her like a shadow. Gareth's eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment, the world around them faded. She could see the hard lines of his face softened by curiosity, a flicker of something caught in the depths of his gaze. Fascination, perhaps. "Just a villager trying to help," she repeated, her voice trembling but steady, a fragile thread woven with defiance. His intense scrutiny didn't waver. "And this girl?" He gestured towards Lila, who peered at him with a mix of awe and trepidation. "Why are you protecting her?" Kira shifted uneasily. She had only just met Lila, yet the connection felt unbreakable. "She was lost in the snow. I couldn't leave her." Gareth's eyes narrowed slightly, assessing her. "Many around here are lost, and few find their way back." A chill crept up Kira's spine. Their exchange felt like a collision of worlds, one of power and rule, the other of compassion and vulnerability. She sensed the weight of their different lives. Gareth carried the burden of a king, while she bore the scars of a simple villager. Most would walk past her, Gareth continued, his voice low and gravelly. They wouldn't think twice. I'm not most people, Kira replied, fire igniting in her chest. There was no fear in her voice, just a tremor of truth. She wasn't afraid of him. She deserves better, we all do. For a moment, silence enveloped them. Kira's heart pounded, a drumbeat reverberating through the air. Did her words reach him? Did they pierce through the wall he had built around his heart? Gareth glanced away, revealing a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, one that he quickly masked. Your kindness is dangerous in these times. Dangerous? She echoed, incredulous. You call it dangerous to care for someone. Compassion can be a weakness. In leadership, it can be fatal. Kira studied him, searching for the man behind the king's facade. You're wrong. It's what binds us. It's what makes us human. He turned his gaze back to her, and Kira felt something shift. Gareth, the impenetrable king, felt human. Humanity is a fragile thing. Before she could respond, Lila tugged at Kira's sleeve, her small voice breaking through the tension. I know you're not scary. Her innocent statement hung in the air, wrapping around Gareth like a gentle embrace. Gareth blinked, taken aback, as if the child's words had struck a chord long forgotten. Is that so? Lila nodded vigorously. You look like a wolf, but you're not a bad one. You have nice eyes. Kira stifled a laugh, surprised by the child's boldness. It seemed to disarm Gareth, who studied Lila with something akin to wonder. In that moment, Kira suspected he had forgotten the innocence of childhood, overshadowed by his title and the burdens he bore. Then a moment of clarity hit her. You're the king, aren't you? He nodded, the line of his jaw tightening. Yes. Is that why you look sad? Kira asked, daring to probe deeper. The air crackled with an intensity that was new and raw. Gareth shook his head, pushed back. Sadness is irrelevant to a king. Maybe it shouldn't be, she replied softly. Maybe you should allow yourself to feel. His expression softened just a fraction. And what do you know of a king's burden? I know about sorrow, Kira replied, her voice lining with some of her own past. I know about losing everything. His gaze flicked back to her, and for the first time, she saw a hint of understanding. The fire? The sharp recollection brought pain rushing back, but Kira nodded. I was left with nothing, only survival. And yet, you still choose to help others. I have to fight against the cruelty of this world, even if I'm just one person. He studied her, weighing her words, understanding the weight carried by a single soul. The connection between them pulsed, drawing him closer. In that moment, Gareth realized Kira could be the strength he had been searching for, a bridge back to his lost humanity. Suddenly, distant shouts pierced through the fragile tension. Angry voices rose, a gathering storm of rebellion beginning to unfurl. The villagers were rising against him, the power he had held for so long starting to slip from his grasp. Don't take her away. The plea was instinctive as Kira instinctively clasped Lila to her side. Gareth straightened, the king slipping back into place. I need to. No. Kira stepped forward, the determination in her voice freezing him in his tracks. You need to listen. Shouts grew louder, echoing through the village like thunder. Kira's breath hitched. You can't rule by fear forever. I know, he admitted, the raw ache in his voice unmistakable. But the world doesn't change overnight. You could start now. Kira watched as Gareth waged a silent war within himself, deciding whether to take the step into something entirely new, whether accepting compassion could eclipse fear, if only for a moment. Stay with us, she whispered. Help us find a way forward, together. Gareth looked down at Lila, her eyes wide and trusting. Could he allow himself to hope? Their gazes locked, both aware that this moment could alter everything. Could they forge a path lit by kindness amidst the shadows? Next, we'll transition to Block 4, where we'll explore the development of their relationship and the vulnerability that begins to emerge. Let's continue. The wind howled through the village, carrying the mounting tension along with it. Kira held her breath, her heart pounding in rhythm with Gareth's internal struggle. She could see the gears of his mind turning, battling against a lifetime of expectations as king. His voice broke the silence, low and heavy. What do you propose, Kira? You think I can simply change everything? That the villagers will suddenly accept me? Isn't that what you want? Kira shot back, emboldened yet cautious, uncertain if she was crossing a line. To be accepted, to be human. Gareth clenched his jaw. It would take more than just words to mend the rift between him and his people. But there was something in Kira's eyes, a flicker of hope that ignited the buried embers of his long-lost humanity. In this moment, Kira, don't mistake my struggle for weakness, he warned, frustration seeping into his tone. I command respect and fear. That is how kings are made. Is it? Kira challenged, stepping even closer, undeterred by the lingering distance between them, tangible yet invisible. Is that how you want to be remembered? Through terror? The sound of shouting grew more chaotic, echoing the urgency in her chest. She glanced down. Lila was clutching Kira's hand tightly, eyes darting between them both, sensing the palpable tension. Gareth's eyes softened at the innocence before him. He hated himself for being so lost. What do you suggest? Start with us. With compassion, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper as she nodded toward the girl. Change begins small. Show them you care. Gareth took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his crown pressing down even heavier. The flickering light from the nearby fire cast eerie shadows across the village, illuminating the battle that lay ahead. Was he truly ready to dive into the unknown, all for a flicker of hope? For Kira? In that moment, Kira felt a shift deepen, the vulnerability laid bare, the realization of what they stood to lose. She recognized her own fear now. Each breath felt charged. Was she willing to risk it all for this new phenomenon blossoming between them? Gareth turned, preparing to face the voices rising in the night, the fury of the people who had suffered for too long under his rule. Before he took a step, he glanced back at Kira, and she saw the mask slip. Protect her, he commanded quietly, his voice barely a breath. And if they reject me, if they come for me— No, Kira interrupted, resolve hardening in her chest. If they come for you, they'll come for me too. Together we face them. Without another word, Gareth strided forward, broad shoulders squared, each determined step pulling Kira into a new reality. The scene shifted as they reached the gathering of angry villagers. Men, women, and children stood together, voices raised in defiance against a king who had abandoned them. Kira's heart raced, a different fear mingling with hope, uncertainty, waging war against the newfound bond she felt with Gareth. As Gareth stepped into the midst of the crowd, his regal posture commanded immediate attention. The chatter quieted, and many gazes turned warily toward him. Kira remained close, conscious of the trembling girl beside her. You fear me, Gareth began, his voice deep yet tinged with vulnerability. But I understand your pain more than you realize. Do you? A voice shot back from the crowd. An older man stepped forward, eyes narrowed. You've turned your back on us, left us to starve while you sit in your castle. You rule from a distance. Kira watched as Gareth's expression flickered. He was a king bearing the weight of his throne and the relentless expectations that came with it. A king who had become a stranger to his people. No more, he proclaimed, lifting his chin as he spoke to the crowd. I will no longer distance myself from your struggles. I aim to be a king who fights for you, not against you. But how do we know it's not just words? Another villager questioned, doubt lacing their tone. You've lied before. Gareth took a step forward, drawing strength from Kira's unwavering gaze. Because I am here, he declared with a surge of determination. And I will prove it. Starting tonight, I will work alongside you, shoulder to shoulder. The crowd stirred. Whispers carried on the wind, uncertainty hanging in the air. But Kira felt a shift, a small ember igniting within the people. Fear kept us apart, but together we can rise, Gareth continued, scanning the faces surrounding him. Together, we can rebuild what was lost. Kira squeezed Lila's hand, her heart racing at the sight of the king, willing to put himself on the forefront of this reckoning. A flicker of determination caught flame among the villagers, and it was contagious. But what of the cost? Chirped a familiar voice, piercing through the tension. It was Dorian, Gareth's once loyal advisor, who had discarded him later as dissent began to stir. You will pay dearly for seen weakness. Kira's stomach sank. This was a dangerous game. They were walking a precipice with no safety net. Gareth shook his head slowly. We're all tired of living in shadows, Dorian. I will no longer hide behind the guise of strength. A murmur rippled through the crowd as Gareth continued. You've suffered, and I've seen our people perish. We cannot continue like this. Then, to Kira's utter surprise, he turned his gaze toward her. Kira believes in our power and future. She sees the best in you all. The influence of his words washed over Kira as her cheeks flushed with warmth. He was intertwining their fates, binding their journey with trust in one heartbreaking moment. Gareth's stance shifted. He stood alongside Kira, an ally, and maybe something more. Could she really trust him to uphold this promise? For the first time, Kira felt empowered. She stepped forward, letting strength surge within her. I believe that together, we can heal our wounds and create a home where no one suffers. Cheers erupted from the crowd, hesitant but building in fervor, rekindling something that had been lost. Let's start with rebuilding the fields, Gareth declared, his voice ringing out. We will not just survive, we will thrive. We will fight for each other. I'll help, Kira added, her voice carrying over the clamor. We need to show that this is not a fight against the king, but a fight for our future, for one another. The resonance between them swelled, a charge that had ignited something indelible, tying Kira to Gareth as they stood firm in the fragile power of hope. But as night fell, they were left uncertain once more. Could they truly create change? Would they remain united as storms of resistance brewed on the horizon? Next, we'll transition to Block 5, where conflict will emerge, testing their resolve and connection as they face the consequences of their declarations. Let's continue. The air was thick with anticipation and uncertainty. As the villagers dispersed, Kira could feel the weight of their newfound resolve shifting like a tide. Gareth stood beside her, a towering figure amidst the fading chaos. Yet there was an undeniable vulnerability in his stance. I know we said we would rebuild, he murmured, glancing sideways at Kira. But the true fight starts now. Kira nodded, adrenaline coursing through her veins. If we can harness this energy, we can turn the tide together, Gareth, bring our village back to life. But doubt lingered like shadows stretching across the now quiet streets. As they chatted softly, a sudden loud crash echoed through the village, an explosion of chaos that sent icy fingers crawling up Kira's spine. The tranquil night split, replaced by cries of alarm. Gareth's expression hardened, instincts kicking in as he instinctively shifted towards the sound. Stay close! They rushed toward the noise, the palpable fear igniting a flash of adrenaline. The scene unfolded, 3 figures cloaked in darkness, armed and threatening, cornered villagers who were trying to defend their homes. A familiar face among the attackers was Dorian, fury emanating from him. Back off, he bellowed, eyes glinting with manic determination. This is a warning. You think you can betray the crown? You will pay. Kira's heart pounded, fear mixing with defiance. Gareth, she called, her voice carried on the wind. We need to stop this. But the king had already stepped forward, the shadows of authority returning as he advanced against the rebel force. Dorian! Gareth's voice reverberated, commanding and fierce. Stand down! This is madness. Madness? Dorian snorted, laughter tinged with bitterness. No, my king. This is clarity. You've failed your people, and now they've turned against you. You aim to fight with compassion? You're a fool. Gareth clenched his fists, tension radiating through him. You don't know them. You don't know what they need. I know what they want, Dorian spat back, drawing a blade. They want to see your downfall. The throne needs a king willing to rule, not a coward hiding behind charm. Kira felt hands trembling at her sides. This was spiraling out of control. She stepped forward instinctively, fear mixed with a strong sense of responsibility. Enough! This fighting won't bring us the change we need. Stay back! Dorian turned, focus shifting to Kira, eyes narrowing. And you, little villager, stay out of this. You can't comprehend the forces at play. But she was adamant. You're wrong. We can build a future. We can change the course of our lives by working together. Dorian scoffed, but the aggression in him wavered slightly. There was no turning back now. Compassion is not a sign of weakness. Gareth intervened forcefully. It's strength. Strength? Dorian seethed. Look at this crowd. They don't respect you. They'd rather follow someone who takes charge. Before Kira could react, Gareth stepped forward, rage igniting within him, facing Dorian. You think dominance earns respect? Fear isn't respect. It's a prison. Kira felt her heart race as tension coiled in the air like a barely contained storm. The two men were locked into a battle of wills, shadows flickering across their faces, illuminated by the dim glow of the flickering torches surrounding them. Suddenly, Dorian lunged, a furious snarl twisting his features. The blade swept dangerously close to Gareth. Kira gasped, adrenaline surging. "Gareth, watch out!" In an instant, Gareth dodged, deflecting Dorian's attack with a force that echoed through the night. The clash rang clear, a reminder of the stakes and the deadly dance they were engaged in. The villagers gasped, retreating in fear. And as Kira watched Gareth fight, a realization gripped her. He was not just a king. He was a warrior reclaiming his right to protect those he had once alienated. "Step down, Dorian," Gareth barked, breathing heavily. "We don't have to do this." But Dorian only charged again, narrowly missing Gareth's shoulder. Their struggle was fierce, a powerful display of strife pitted against the growing resolve of the village. Kira felt her heart clench. This was no longer a fight against a tyrant, but a fight for their future. Kira leaped forward, her voice steadying toward both of them. "Enough! Stand aside, Kira!" Gareth shouted, shifting his focus for just a moment. "This isn't your fight." "It is!" she shouted back. "It's everyone's fight. You can't let Dorian dictate how we're going to reclaim our lives." Gareth hesitated, the weight of her words catching him, the weight of what they had begun to build. The fire in her gaze urged him to reconsider. "Together," she urged. "You're stronger than this division. Show him you're not afraid." Gareth turned back to Dorian. "You've underestimated us all, Dorian. We won't be divided anymore." Their eyes clashing, Gareth and Dorian renewed their fight. But something shifted. Now it was not just personal, but a struggle for the soul of their kingdom. Kira rushed forward, the rush of courage fueling her. "We're fighting for change." Dorian hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his features as he watched Kira risk herself in the fray. His grip faltered on his weapon. "You think you can change everything?" "Yes," Kira shouted. "We can change the hate into hope. We can be a community again." "Dorian!" Gareth's voice rang clear, echoing as he felt the weight of Kira's resolve knit them together. "You want power? Stand with us. We're offering a different kind of strength." The fight began to slow, tension shifting as Dorian seemed caught in the gravity of what they were doing. Villagers, who had been watchers, started stepping forward, rallying behind them. As Gareth stood firm beside Kira, Dorian's facade trembled. The once absolute barriers began to splinter. "You really believe this?" he whispered, disbelief mingling with uncertainty. "There's power in compassion," Kira declared, heart racing, fostering every ounce of strength she had. "Together, we'll rebuild this kingdom." Dorian's blade slipped from his grip, and the cool metal clattered to the ground. The weight of 1,000 burdens seemed to lift from the collective shoulders of the villagers. He faltered, his voice cracking. Kira stepped forward, vulnerability echoing in her voice. "Join us, Dorian. You can be part of the change. Fight for something greater." As silence enveloped the scene, Kira locked eyes with Gareth, a profound sense of unity swelling between them. Maybe they would find their way together after all. Would Dorian accept this chance? And could this be the turning point? Next, we'll move into Block 6, where resolutions will be made, and the future of their kingdom laid bare as they navigate the aftermath of this confrontation. Let's continue. The atmosphere hung thick with tension as the villagers waited, their eyes glued to Dorian. Time slowed, uncertainty clawing at Kira's heart. Would he cast aside his anger? Would he embrace change? Finally, Dorian heaved a heavy sigh, his voice wavering. "I don't know if I can change. I've fought too long to let go." Kira took a step forward, her conviction unwavering. "It's never too late to change. We want to fight for you, for us. Together. Gareth stood firm beside her, a hand resting reassuringly on Dorian's shoulder. This isn't a challenge, Dorian. It's an opportunity to rebuild. Together as allies, not enemies. The gravity of Gareth's words transformed the moment. Villagers who had been gathering the courage to step forward rallied around them, a sense of hope beginning to swell. You really believe this? Dorian whispered, doubt flickering in his eyes. Compassion has power, Kira replied, her heart pounding. Together, we can reshape our futures. With a trembling hand, Dorian dropped his blade, the clang echoing in the quiet that followed. A collective breath seemed to escape the villagers, and a spark ignited in Dorian's eyes. Kira took a chance, stepping closer. Join us, Dorian. Fight for something greater than strife. The crowd swelled with murmurs of hope as silence enveloped the scene. Kira exchanged glances with Gareth. It felt like they were on the precipice of something monumental. Let's show our village they can trust us, Gareth declared, voice strong and clear. We will rebuild, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Yes, let's gather the villagers. They need to know we are united, Kira added, adrenaline surging. Dorian nodded, his determination beginning to surface. I'll help. We can show them real change starts now. The villagers erupted in cheers, the tension melting away. Kira suddenly felt lighter, as if the chains of despair had lifted from their shoulders. Days turned into weeks, the village bustling with renewed energy. Together, they toiled in the fields that had lain fallow for too long, nurturing crops that returned to life under the sun. Kira felt pride blossom within her as she watched villagers sharing laughter, a sense of community growing between them. Gareth was steadfast at her side, navigating challenges together. Every moment deepened their connection, trust solidifying between them. Dorian emerged as a pivotal figure, using his experience to rally support, transforming the anger and bitterness into hope. The three of them forged a new path, intertwining their destinies. But shadows loomed, reminders of the past creeping in. Dissenting voices lingered, and Kira felt the unease in the air, old resentments simmering just beneath the surface. One evening, Kira and Gareth sat side by side, gazing across their working village. The warmth of the setting sun painted the horizon in hues of gold. Look at what we've accomplished, Gareth said, heart full. You've breathed life back into this place. Kira smiled, but a shadow crossed her mind. But what if old fears creep back in? What if we can't hold everyone together? Suddenly, loud crashing from the tavern broke the tranquility, a sound that sent a jolt of fear through her. Gareth, stay back, he shouted, urgency lacing his voice as they rushed to the source of the chaos. Inside the tavern, pandemonium swept through the room. A group of cloaked figures shouted threats at the gathered villagers, chaos erupting once more. Dorian stood defiant among them, eyes filled with malice. You dare defy your king? You will pay for your betrayal. Kira's heart raced, dread crashing over her. We can't let this happen again. Get back, Gareth snapped as he steadied himself. Kira fought the panic rising in her chest. We're standing for something real. We won't let fear control us. We will not yield, Gareth growled, stepping forward, prepared to face the threat head-on. Dorian's men drew closer, tension building once again. Would fear shatter everything they had fought to build? Together we stand, Kira yelled, her voice cutting through the mounting chaos around them. Would they succeed in this moment? Or would the ghosts of the past pull them back into darkness? If you enjoyed the story of Kira, Gareth, and Dorian overcoming their struggles in the face of fear, subscribe for more epic Lycan King romances. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. And remember, even in darkness, hope can light the way. Thank you for listening.